Hey guys, just a quick heads up before we do this episode. We had some mic issues here and there, specifically on Don's side. We tried to clear them up as best we can. Hopefully, you guys understand while we do this episode. Occasionally, tech fails, life happens, but we appreciate you listening. All right, enjoy the episode, y'all. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Sprites of Life podcast. I'm Lucas.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Don.
So glad to have you guys here on another fantastic episode. I had to put a little fish pun in there because I'm excited. We get to talk about a game I've looked at and never played before, just like so many other people. Feel
You
inspired.
get to be the one Googling stuff today.
Yeah, no, I didn't have to write the notes today. I didn't have to put together a Pokemon list or anything. I just let you have it. You know how relieving that is?
I thought it would be a good little bit to get Don to talk about some diving since he's a frequent diver, or pretty much the only diver I know. So I thought we could talk about Subnautica.
I remember when Jacksepticeye, like when he was, when I was young, I would watch him and like see how much he loved that game. Like that man basically sold that game. Have you ever played it, Don?
Subnautica a little bit. My sister actually has the VR version. So I've played some of that, and that's really cool.
I bet that's sick.
It sounds really creepy.
Well, I have to step away for a second, so I will let you all handle the notes, but I will see you all back in the episode.
Cool, thanks. See you in a bit. Alrighty, so while Chris is busy doing his thing, Don, what are your thoughts on manatees?
If I say what I think, I will get in big trouble.
Make it nice?
No, I'm kidding. I really like manatees. I have a friend who's like a diehard manatee hater.
Really? How can you hate
yeah.
manatees?
His argument is that they're overgrazing the seagrass in areas that they traditionally couldn't live, but thanks to power plants, they can overwinter in new areas.
Okay, fair enough. But
I
the
haven't
average
looked
person
all the way on a study, but he's very diehard. Yes, the average person really likes manatees. I like manatees. I like seeing them. They're a very sort of one of the posters of charismatic megafauna in Florida, which I know we've talked about that before, but they're really crucial to the preservation of a lot of other wildlife habitat because again, people like them so much.
But in any case, your friend might have someone who does not like dolphins not like manatees to talk to, and that is dolphins. Turns out.
Oh yes, well, my friend also doesn't like dolphins, but
well, good. He can dislike them more, maybe less. I don't know because
I think
they've
this will
been
make
seen attacking.
I think this will make him like them more, actually.
Okay, they've been seen attacking baby manatees. So add.
I mean, I'm not even surprised. I feel like don't they? We already know they attack other porpoises, just like for funsies.
I mean, we get that, but it's important to keep giving the data so that way some people can start realizing that dolphins are cool, but they're not friends. Be both. I mean, they're seeing dolphins go in and like separating the mom from the calf, seeing them bite. Apparently, and according to the article, and I'm reading this correctly, they were throwing them out of the water.
They're kind of football shaped.
Yeah, they're football shaped, but like the fact that the dolphins are able to like, oh, hang on, there it is. And I quote, push the calf up to the surface while other dolphins attack the animal, ramming it with their rostrums and launching the calf into the air. Like they've seen bite marks on them and they don't know why. I'm pretty sure it's just dolphins looking for something fun to do, but it's real scary when you think about it. Like the fact that they just don't care and are willing to just beat the snot out of some poor defenseless critter. I don't know. It's weird, but it's another thing to add to the pile on dolphins are weird. But it's also just nice to see that there's a research paper on it as opposed to like I discovered it off like, oh, like the general media. Like I'm not going to go on a rant, but like when the general media gets a science article, usually they cut out the best parts. Or at least, the important
Interesting
ones.
that these have been recorded mainly off the coast of Belize. At least from seeing one incidences, or if it's like a learned behavior from those dolphins specifically.
Yeah, it's not like a Florida man story. It's just the dolphins out in that area that are causing it. And dolphins pick up all kinds of weird stuff depending on where they're living. You should see the ones in Charleston, but these ones, I don't know. Hopefully they don't make a trip up here and start beating up our manatees. But anyway, as far as gaming news goes, we had 2 trailers drop
And another announcement too I saw today that I'm also equally hyped about, but I'll talk about that last.
Okay, so we had 2 trailers drop. One of them was for the Borderlands movie. The other one was for Elden Rings. You wanna talk about the thing that makes us happy or the thing that makes us go, "Eh"?
Let's start with the and then we'll move to the positive.
Cool. The Borderlands trailer dropped, and, yeah, those are indeed some of the characters I've played with. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm looking at this, someone said, "Discount Guardians of the Galaxy energy," and I'm like, "You're not wrong."
yeah, and like I don't know, the fact that it's characters from the first and second games, the ages aren't really right for them to just be talking about discovering the vaults. I feel like it's like someone read the summary of Borderlands and just took some random characters from several games and slapped them into just a generic like find the MacGuffin story. Which to be fair, the story of Borderlands 1 is basically just find the MacGuffin and shoot everyone. So I guess like that's not that far, but I'll say I'm skeptical, but who knows? Maybe it'll be fun. I normally I would complain about, and I am going to complain a little bit about some of the casting stuff. Mainly like, and I'm a big Jack Black fan, and he's a legit voice actor. I love him in Kung Fu Panda, but like I'm not sure why we couldn't have just had the voice of Claptrap be Claptrap.
I know the original voice of Claptrap had some issues with, like, having to
Yeah,
leave
but
and when
even
they
the
replaced him,
Borderlands
but,
3
like,
voice of Claptrap I thought was pretty good.
yeah, he's pretty spot on, and the writing was the exact same, so it didn't matter. Yeah, I don't know why they didn't just use that legitimate voice
Yeah,
actor.
and I'm a Kevin Hart fan. I like him. I don't know if he's the guy for Roland.
I don't take him seriously because he's made
Roland's
almost
like
$1 billion.
serious with a touch of humor, and Kevin Holland's like mainly a humor guy, and Roland's kind of normally like of the group of the Vault Hunters. I feel like he's kind of like the straight man of the zany.
I also feel that Lilith is the wrong age.
Yeah, and I'm a Kate Blanchett fan. I think she's really good. I don't know. She seems more like Lilith. Normally is more like she's kind of more all over the place. She gets kind of dark in some of the later games, but generally she seems more kind of upbeat. And this one she seems very like negative. I guess I don't know. I don't know.
Mhm.
We'll see.
Uh,
We'll see. I feel like it's gonna be. I don't think this is going in the Detective Pikachu slash Sonic movie pile.
no, I think
It
this
might
is
be
going
going. I
into.
just hope it doesn't go in the Dragon Ball Z pile.
Yeah, no, please, any more about that. I'd rather it be mid than go to that pile. I will say, to be positive, loved the gun designs.
I was about to say the designs of the vehicles and the guns and sort of the some of that I did like that.
The bandits, spot on, and the makeup. Whoever did the makeup for Krieg and all the costuming deserves an award. 'Cause
Yeah, I
that's
think the
Krieg.
set design and I am very excited about that. I think the set design I'm gonna go see it just purely even for the visuals are looking very at least some of we'll see on how some of the CGI action looks, but the gun design looks fantastic.
Yeah, and let's be honest, Borderlands has a bunch of weird, cringy, lolso random humor scattered through it. So seeing it in a movie like this, I get it. But still, it's gonna be weird. I don't think it's gonna be great, but maybe it'll just be fun. Onto more serious business. Elden Ring trailer dropped, and everyone completely forgotten that Nintendo did a direct today after that.
Yeah, we have Shadow of the Erdtree, finally dropped. I believe our release date is sometime in June 21st, I think maybe. There's some cool collector's edition stuff. I will restrain myself, but you get a cool
Like,
helmet.
you get a cool helmet.
Yeah, so we think, given some sort of the hints from the trailer, I won't get too into the lore. We think this is going to involve Mikola, who's Melania, Blade of Mikola's twin brother, who's like sleeping in a weird cocoon in the first game or in the main game. And it sounds like that we'll be going into the world of shadow, so maybe a dream world type of thing, kind of like the painted world we saw in Dark Souls 3. So obviously different, but still from soft, so maybe a similar sort of thing. I'm gonna imagine, given we're going into like the shadow world, and sleep is a aspect of Mikola's weapons and stuff we see in the main game. And the only enemies that inflict sleep in the main game are like two random crabs. So I'm guessing we're gonna have a lot of sleep based stuff in this DLC, if I had to guess.
I mean, I'm gonna assume there's ways you can stop being slept on, but I saw the dragon in the trailer just shooting lightning.
The dragons love shooting lightning in this one. In Dark Souls, they don't love shooting lightning. But yeah, I think we're gonna have. I don't. I'm very excited. I feel like they're really taking their time with it, especially like I think FromSoft typically does a very good job with their DLCs. Old Hunters was great for Bloodborne. I think the DLCs were the best part of Dark Souls 2, and I'm a Dark Souls 2 fan till I die. But yeah, I'm just really excited about it. Some of the new monster designs we saw in the trailer are really cool. And then other game news I saw is that there's going to be the real Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2 are being released for Xbox, PlayStation, PC, and the Switch.
I saw that too. My brother shared it with me. Let's go. Screw you, DICE. Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
you've
so
got a PlayStation, right,
excited.
Lucas?
Oh my gosh, yes. We are totally gonna be
I also
playing this.
yeah, we're gonna get after that. Maybe we'll even bust the capture card out. We'll do a stream. It says 64-person multiplayer too.
Oh my gosh, just my heart swoons. My heart swoons. Oh, I just wanna. For those of you who've never played the original Battlefront 2, its ship battles were amazing. Its open
Galactic
battlefield of the.
Conquest.
Oh my gosh, like
Also,
hero
dude,
versus.
the campaign was incredible.
Oh my gosh, the hero versus villains fights. Oh my gosh.
And this is gonna include all the DLCs too. So, I think Kit Fisto was Xbox only DLC, so he'll be playable, and Alea Secura, I think, was the opposite. Plus the DLC maps, which I never even got to play when I was a kid because I just had a PlayStation 2, and back in my day, we played the game that came on the disc.
Oh, Kashyyyk. Oh, we get to fight in Kashyyyk again. I loved the droid weapons. Like the droid vehicles? Oh my
Ooh, yeah,
gosh.
I don't know, I liked the Republic tank with the laser turret. The
Also
hover tank?
good.
I can't remember its name.
That's like the hypest thing. I freaking loved that game as a kid. I remember so many freaking memories from that game. I just hope they don't screw it up. I pray on my hands and knees that not some weird server issue or some weird monetary stuff put in. I am literally clasping my hands together. Just please, just let us have this. Please. Star Wars is not in its best shape. I only like some of the stuff. Let me have this game, please. Now I'm ready to learn about some fish.
Don, if you could real quick, you are the most frequent diver, at least of the three of us here, but do you mind just kind of doing through a run through of like what it takes to dive? What do you need to account for? What logistics are involved with it? Because I think it's a lot more complicated than people might expect.
Yeah, I can jump into that a little bit without getting too crazy with it at all. So diving, when we think of diving, like we typically, at least in the context of Subnautica, I mean later on into the game, I know you get into like submersibles and stuff, but just when people think of diving, I guess primarily think of like scuba diving, where you're using a compressed air or nitrogen oxygen mix, depending on how true to atmosphere it is, can depend on the depth you're going to. Because a big thing with diving is pressure. Roughly every 33 feet of water is the equivalent of an Earth's atmosphere of pressure on you. So when you're diving, you're breathing a compressed gas mixture, not always strictly compressed air. And the pressure of that as you dive is basically keeping the pressure in your lungs the same as the depth you're at. Because your lungs would otherwise be contracting under the pressure of the depth of water, but you're basically keeping the pressurized air in your lungs, if that makes sense.
So you're like is it like kind of tricking your body?
Kind of. But like I said, the biggest like a lot of the biggest dangers as well with scuba diving, other than the obvious things like just running out of breathable oxygen, are is something called decompression sickness or the bends, which can cause a typically you see it in scuba divers if they you were at depth and you came up too quickly. And it's basically a rapid decrease in the pressure that surrounds you, either air or water, which can cause nitrogen bubbles to form in your blood, and they kind of can collect in the joints, which causes you to double over, which is why like the bends is a common name for it.
And the only way to fight that is just to ascend at a
At a controlled depth. Yeah, divers that are doing like very deep, like technical dives, like greater than, especially like the deeper you go, the less breathable air you have as you go down. And you also the level of difficulty and danger drastically increases, especially once you start getting like past the 100-foot range. You have to do anyone that's done any diving, you learn about decompression stops. Where say you were diving at 60 feet on your way up, and I mainly free dive these days, which has a bunch of different rules. But compression is a lot less of an issue. But you have to stop and decompress maybe 15, 30 feet from the surface and wait there while your body acclimates. then continue to ascend very slowly. And it's also very important to be exhaling, just breathing normally, but you really don't want to hold your breath while you ascend. The air in your lungs that was keeping them normal at a certain depth will suddenly be too much air when you're shallower, and that's bad. Yeah, that's bad for it's. Yeah, that's generally bad for your lungs.
That's the technical side of diving, but in terms of like the wildlife that you might encounter, for like what's it like in a world where you kind of have to be like aware 360 degrees all around you because anything can come at you from anywhere.
Yeah, so yeah, in terms of wildlife, I mean, obviously people are at a massive disadvantage in the water. It doesn't how many counts. It doesn't really matter how good your fins are or anything like that. I mean, once you start getting into some like certain levels of technology, things change. But you're just way less maneuverable than everything. You have a more limited field of view than everything. You can't breathe, even if you have like scuba equipment or something like that. You're still breathing is restricted and hampered a little bit, or at least in terms of time as well. And you just have to sort of, I mean, basically every animal around you has every advantage, unless it's like a seahorse.
The poor
Not their
seahorses.
fault. They're built for the grass. Like anything they can, like those things are probably some of the most fragile creatures on the planet, and I have no idea how we keep them in aquariums.
They
None.
will they
They're
will never
weird.
be top dog.
They have to eat so much too for something that barely moves.
Don, thank you for that. So we can jump into the game. Subnautica, the game, was developed and published in 2018 by Unknown Worlds Entertainment. And in the game, the player controls Riley Robinson, who is stranded on a planet that is known to you as 4546b. The planet is mostly ocean, and the bulk of Subnautica takes place underwater. There's like a couple islands or bits or whatever, but mostly diving underwater. So Riley moves through this open underwater world, carrying out missions, just trying to survive. It's a little bit different though, because it's not like your I said it carries out it's not your traditional like do a mission, get a reward type
It's
quest.
more sandboxy kind of, right?
Yeah, it's there is stuff to do and you can do it, but it's not that they were actively trying to stay away from that. He was actually the creator when they came up with the idea was actually inspired by Minecraft.
I can see that. It does a very Minecraft sort of feel.
Yeah, there is an ultimate goal for sure, but how you get there is very much like up to you as the player. So, one bit that I do really like about the game is that there are a couple different modes to play, much like all games, but they have one game mode where not only is your health and oxygen, which are very important as Don illustrated while you're diving, but it also tracks your hunger and thirst levels to make sure that you are keeping those up in your survival of this foreign planet. But you also have a permadeath mode that is the same as it's basically it tracks your hunger, your health, your oxygen, and your thirst. But much like all those other games that love to torture their players, when you die, your game is over. And there's just something about the style that the game is. It just feels very, I don't know. It kind of makes me want to play it like again and just go through it that way, you know. Now the game has different biomes that you can navigate. So you have the safe shallows, the crash zone, the mushroom forest, which is a super dope underwater mushroom forest. Lucas, you should look that up. The kelp forest and the grassy plateau. And inhabiting all of these, well, do you see the mushroom forest, Lucas?
Yeah, I'm seeing it.
I
I
think
can
it's so
see
pretty.
it's very pretty. I'm just looking at this and I'm trying to figure out like underwater salt resistant fungus at this size. It's like I'm just looking at the ecosystem because uh, it has this thing where it's trying to treat the fungus like a plant just from the artwork. That's what I find interesting because fungi are more closer to animals than they are to plants, so they have this bright
They're
shiny.
not really. Maybe they're not really fungi. Maybe they're like a weird algae or something.
Maybe. I mean, that's the thing. It might just look like a fungus, and that might just be it. Yeah, it's got the wide discs and everything to collect. So maybe it is just an organism, but it's in a shallow reef area. So I guess it could just be another plant or some kind of algae. He's right.
Yeah. I just think it looks so pretty. But and then so we have the 6 zones. So what I've done is I've kind of gone through the zones. While some of these fish do cross over between other zones, I tried to make sure that we got one that was representative of each from the ones that I just listed. So we'll start off with the nice, safe early zone. We have the safe shallows, and one that I like. It's just so cute, but it's called the Gary fish. So the Gary fish is a passive fish. Will not attack you. Looks super cute. You can eat it, much like all the other things. There is a definite SpongeBob vibes with its little stalk eyes. It just looks like a happy little fella. But it's mostly just kind of gliding through the water, minding its own business. It is diurnal, so I believe it is mostly active during the day. Is
Correct. So like a lot of fish are kind of generalist in terms of that, but some fish definitely have preferences. Some fish though are very much like hardcore diurnal. I would use parrotfish as a good example. At least most of them. On the reef, you'll see them at night. They'll actually like they're out there chomping coral, grazing on algae and all that. And then at night you'll see them. They'll actually make a cocoon out of mucus and kind of wedge themselves up in a rock. And the mucus will act like a scent-proof sleeping bag to hide them from predators.
Oh, that's pretty slick.
Fish are weird and gooey.
It is slick. It's
Are
mucus.
are fish that are diurnal easier to catch if you catch them in the certain points, or are they just like too good at hiding?
It might depend. Something like a parrotfish, like definitely. I know I've gone on some night dives to like collect and just like look, and there's definitely certain fish where kind of wedged up in a rock. I think you see it. I've seen some videos from tide pool areas too at night. I think some tang species as well will just sort of kind of wedge themselves in something, and I imagine they'd be easier to catch so long as you don't like startle them. Like even fish when they're not paying attention, they're still pretty ready to move. Actually, here too, a fish called a sheep's head. Sometimes at night they'll come very shallow and basically seem like they're sort of just sleeping, just drifting back and forth in the waves.
Those are the spooky ones with teeth, right?
Yeah, they're also delicious.
Oh yeah, we have big ones at a lot of aquariums just because they do so well in human care, and you'll see the fishermen start to salivate when they look at them.
Yeah.
It's true.
So the last bit for the Gary fish is the stalk eyes. Now, I might be wrong, but stalk eyes are not typical for a fish, correct?
Yeah, I mean, not really. I mean, I'm sure there's some weird exception I'm not looking up, right, Don? You probably know one or two.
Sorry, in terms of stock, like true stocked eyes, off the top of my head, I can't think of one. I mean, I will say, I would assume maybe does the Gary fish bury itself at night?
I don't think so, but that would make sense for it.
So eyes very high on the top of the head like that could indicate a fish that either spends a lot of its time on the bottom or like actively buries itself with just its eyes exposed. The mouth of it doesn't really match that of like a upwards facing ambush predator like some fish with eyes high on their head are, but like the body shape with the mouth and the eyes kind of reminds me of a fish called a sea robin.
Oh, I love those. Those are great. I'm gonna get a picture of that.
Oh yeah, kind of long, skinny little buddies.
Yeah, I'm not, and like the way his pectoral fins are, I can't tell if they really can fan out like a sea robin's. And sea robins also have the modified pelvic and part of their pectoral fins that look like little fingers, and they kind of scoot along the bottom with that sometimes. So I could see him maybe with eyes like that, kind of an extreme example, but he'd be sort of creeping along the bottom, and the eyes elevated with those angles would let him see all around him very well. So he'd be pretty alert to threats from the sides and above.
I can get down with that. That's a cool looking fish too.
Honestly, as far as like fictional fish go, like this isn't really too bad. Like this isn't like, oh my gosh, this is a affront to anything in an ecosystem. Like, no, the fossil record has shown us that there have been far weirder creatures on our own world. So I don't see any issues.
I see a little bit of boxfish in him too, maybe.
Oh,
They
you're
don't quite
right.
have.
A little bit of Tetradonte.
Yeah, I don't. They don't quite have the eye stalks, and this guy's clearly not poisonous if you can eat him. But yeah, I like this guy. I mean, if that's something, the barrel eye sort of has upward facing eyes, but they don't count because they're inside its head that's clear.
Yeah, weird. Yeah, they're weird. Always weird. All right. So I mean, if that's a normal one, that was our starter. What else are you throwing at us?
I think that might be the only normal one we have. So the
Okay.
Oh,
we're
okay. So
moving into-
the larval black dragonfish has eye stalks.
okay, so we got something. It's not too crazy. It's a little crazy.
It's
Not
actually
crazy.
the most insane thing I've ever seen.
Would you say the larval black dragon?
The larval black dragonfish.
Good heavens!
Yeah, I don't
That's
know about that
4
one.
of oh, yeah, here
Yeah.
you go. Enjoy that.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. Uh,
Sugar.
so moving into the next zone. This one actually I feel like Lucas, you actually know this one. So this one is I think a little bit more well renowned. But we have the Stalker.
I have heard of the Stalker. I've heard of it just because it is, like, one of the most common when you have your thumbnail for anything in this game? Like, this is usually what people use, is this critter. Is this critter or one of the, leviathans.
So the Stalker is not passive. And it is a carnivore. And it is a long boy, and I'm pretty sure it's 90% snout if you look at the photos. So the only thing that I can really think about with that mouth is it reminds me of the what are those alligators like? Is it
An
gharials?
alligator gar, or
Gharials.
like a long nosed gar. Oh,
Oh, a
general Gyarados,
long-nosed
right.
gar. Yeah, gharials would be it. But it also reminds
It
me of a
honestly looks
gar.
like an ichthyosaur more than a fish almost.
Yeah, it's more reptilian, which, like, I know what they're going for because look, it's got the fins of a whale. So this thing used to be on land. Like, if you look at hang on, I'll show you what I'm looking at. So if you look at its fins, you'll notice. Nope, that's another same picture. Okay, my bad. So with whales and other mammals that have made their way into the ocean, they have a very interesting bone like spread out that makes them. It's very easy to tell that they could have been on land if you know their bone structure. Look at the rear flippers on this creature and how they're dinky and barely used. These might be the remnants of legs. So back in the prehistoric times where there was probably more land, this creature was living there, but then made its way into the ocean.
And then was like, you know what? I don't think I will, and
Yeah.
went into the ocean.
Also, its teeth and just its jaws in general all are built to hunt fish. I
Mhm.
Very
don't know
fish
why
eater.
it wants. Yeah, no, this is like a super fish eater. I don't know why it wants to hurt you.
So I think it wants to hurt you because it likes
Oh,
shiny
much
things.
like the people that get bit by barracudas.
That's what you get for wearing jewelry in the reef.
The Stalker loves metal. They steal metal of all kinds and sneak it back to their nests. I don't think we really know why. So like maybe they're collecting it. I don't know if it has something that like it helps its nests with.
It could be a bowerbird situation, like it's showing it off to the opposite sex.
Yeah, that was the only thing I could really think of is either that it's trying to show off, it has like some benefit for being in the nest, like maybe some kind of defensive thing, or it's a collector like we are. It just likes shiny things.
I just love it because it proves that they've thought of an evolutionary path, or at least I think they might have. I also like how, as scary as this thing is, it's considered like what a minor threat in the game as far as other things go.
So one question that I did want to ask is it has, if I count correctly, 7 dorsal fins. Why would something need that many dorsal fins?
So, okay, I can maybe feel that. So that could actually just be a single dorsal fin. But instead of being like contiguous with like the spines spreading across the fins, it could just be just dorsal spines with like a little extra flair to them. Which like we see in some fish, not really to this degree. Some fish like a cobia have finlets, like they have their small dorsal fin and then like little spiky mini fin behind it. And that kind of almost reminds me of this, but this is much more pronounced, kind of has a stegosaurus kind of look going on. The fact that they're so spaced out, I mean, it could be a little bit of maneuverability or something. It could also be for displaying, maybe like it, showing your like genetic fitness or just
Maybe thermoregulation. Maybe
could
help
be.
like to offset some heat. I mean, if it's in tropical waters, then it might need to offset some of that heat in warmer areas. I know there are warmer areas in the game, so that might be another reason it has it. Or apparently, according to Subnautica Below Zero, this is a cousin of it, and that could have been used to thermoregulate because it lived in the cold, and that's how it try and gets more heat or gets absorbed sunlight in some way. And then that's just a feature that kind of got passed along. There's a lot to be speculated, but it's pretty cool.
So the next one, Lucas, I actually asked you to tackle this one because you like
Oh
jellyfish.
yeah. So yeah, it's something called a jelly ray, and I'm gonna go ahead and find a picture of it. It's one of those weird ones where, out of all the things you could have sent me, this creature is somehow less dangerous than both the things it's named after. Well, from what I understand of this creature, all it really does is it floats around in darker areas and it just glides aimlessly, dragging around and dragging tentacles behind it. It doesn't really do much. Like I don't even know what it eats.
It screams.
Like that's the weird part. It screams. That's all it does. Like
That's
why does it
different.
scream?
I don't know. It's got a lot of feelings.
And apparently they used the Jelly Race scream. They used wolf howls to make it for the game. And I'm like, cool, but why? Did you just want to set the random diver on edge while you're like doing your thing? I get it. It's funny, but still.
So like it definitely has the manta ray feel with that long spine, but why would it need the tentacles and the long spine?
Okay. So jellyfish are old and their strategy hasn't really changed too much in hundreds of millions of years. Their tentacles are designed to grab food floating in the water as they float in the water. Some of them have some form of locomotion. They're able to move a little bit, but most of them are at the mercy of the current. Because of that, those tentacles are going to use their stinging cells, their pneumatices, to basically catch on to prey items and then drag them towards the mouth for them to consume. It also doubles as a nifty protection against anything trying to hurt them. And jellyfish, throughout the hundreds of millions of years, have developed some rather nasty toxins. Weirdly enough, the toxins that would super kill like a random fish trying to eat them will also super kill a random primate off the coast of Australia just trying to go for a swim, i.e.,
They,
us.
they don't discriminate.
The ray part of it, not all rays are venomous. So there are things like the manta ray that don't have a venomous spine. There are
And some are
skates that are
electric.
related to. Yeah, I mean some are electric. Some of them are like the electric ray in Florida. Just, you go, bzz, not even that like bad of a jolt. It's just still quite shocking.
I got
Okay.
shocked by a torpedo ray in Baja one time.
Really? How bad?
I mean, it was different. He was just a little guy. I was diving for clams and I put my hand on top of one that was buried.
Oh, okay.
It felt like those gum. I was through gloves too. You know those gums that you pull the trigger or you pull the like fake gum and it shocks you.
Yeah.
Kind of goes up to your elbow ish maybe. It was like that level of shock.
Okay. To be quite frank, that's way better than getting stung by a stingray.
Oh yeah, I've been stung by a stingray too. That sucked more.
It's awful. If you've never been stung, count yourself lucky. It's not lethal. It's just excruciatingly painful. The cure is hot water because it breaks down the protein the venom is made out of. But it hurts a whole lot, and you got to go to the doctor. And if you got stung in the foot, you might be off your feet a few days. The point is, in the real world, both rays and jellyfish are way scarier than this floating, peaceful, screaming blob.
It kind of reminds me of the G. Atlanticus sea slug, the blue sea dragon.
Oh, you're right, just a little bit.
Yeah, he doesn't have the little arms, but I don't know, maybe it's just the coloration.
I mean, it also has bioluminescence, like everything else in this game. Like, Chris, how much is bioluminescent in this game?
There's a lot. They're
Okay.
they're more than not.
I mean, there's a lot of bioluminescence out here, and you just don't see much of it because it's at the bottom.
um, I will say, according to the thing, it generates its own light source, but it also looks for light in order to track and find. Now, there are plenty of jellies that actually use moonlight in order to reproduce. So there's a lot of studies done on these animals that they will go towards the surface when the moon is full, and then they'll just spawn. So this could be reproductive. This could be because whatever food source it's going after is also attracted to the light. It could be that they're attracted to the light because they think it's another of their own kind, and they're going to follow that for other kinds of reproduction. So it's not too far off base. I just think it's really funny that this creature screams for no reason other than to make you upset and uncomfortable.
Yes, and it's very good at it.
What is
So
that? Oh, it's just a jellyfish. Don't worry about it. Look at him float by. I'm sorry. I'm just like one of my favorite things to do at work is to watch people see the jellyfish and think, "Oh my gosh, look how majestic!" They take pictures. I'm just imagining behind the glass is the muffled scream of
Just
a
screaming.
yeah.
Could you
Look at the
imagine if
moon jelly.
jellyfish just scream?
Ah! 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 How majestic.
You're not
What
wrong.
if they are just in a frequency we can't hear?
Yeah, like, oh, someone just puts a radio and it's just like one random note later, just like the cut off scream. I'm sorry, Chris. That's
You're good.
it,
So
it kills me.
the well, speaking of killing you, the
Oh boy.
next fish is called the crash fish.
I'll get the picture.
Oh, I put notes on this, I thought. Oh, oh yeah, I did. I did. Okay, I didn't see it initially. But yes, go ahead.
The crash fish is a pretty cool one. I like the crash fish a lot. But basically, there are these plants called the crash fish plants that the fish like lives inside. It's their home. And the plant, if you get too close, the plant will open up and this fish will just like launch itself, like full on charge at you. It does have the capability to just full on explode itself and kill itself while attacking you and defending it. It is a like it has no account for itself. It just charges you and blows up if it wants to.
I'm getting Malaysian exploding ant vibes.
I thought about the explosion ants also. Yeah,
What are these ants?
it's an ant and it explodes when you upset it.
I figured that was enough of a description that you needed, but if you want the chemistry behind it, I guess. Um,
Well,
there's a group of ants that can do this, and basically it's more like a last line of defense. When this ant is about to die, or if it's in a struggle, they have two chemical streams down their body. And so if they contort their body, they can make the streams touch. And if Ghostbusters taught us anything, it's if you cross the stream, something's crazy happens. In this case, it causes the chemical reaction causes like a sticky, burning, almost napalmy like substance to come out. And instead of like a fiery bang, it's more like a deflating like souffle of death. Any other animal caught in it is going to be caught in this burning, awful chemical stink. It's not great. Needless to say, it is an endangered species for one reason or another. I think it's the exploding, but what do I know?
and Don, how territorial are fish or can fish
So
be?
some fish can be very territorial. Even you can see it in aquariums well enough. But like particular thing that it made me think of, are the certain a lot other fish will do it as well. But damselfish, certain species of damselfish have preferred algae that they like to eat, and they'll selectively sort of pluck out any other algae or anything that's caused like any debris that's blocking their little patch on the reef. And they'll also like jealously attack other fish, like regardless of their size. They'll come up and I mean this might be a 2-inch fish, and if you're scuba diving or free diving or just am near it, it'll start trying to come over and nipping at you and stuff. They're very territorial towards other fish. They'll go after a shark if they feel like he's in their zone. There's some hilarious videos of very small damselfish being very aggressive.
The sergeant majors that aquariums have, like the ones I've seen, the most aggressive fish in a tank full of over 40 different species and 550 different fish, the sergeant majors are the meanest. If you go anywhere near their barrel sponge, they will try biting you. Now,
Yeah, yeah,
granted,
sergeant
it's
majors. Yeah, once again, a damselfish of
yeah, just
yeah.
it's the only damsel I'm the most familiar with. Anytime the divers scrub that thing every day, they go towards it every single day, and those fish do not care. They are going to try and kill you if you go near their barrel sponge every time.
Yeah, Lucas is dead on. In aquariums as well, when you're setting up a new aquarium, people will cycle it, and maybe when you're first setting it up, you'll put in some fish you don't typically cheaper fish that, ideally ones you want in your tank, but also if the tank's not quite at 100%, like it's better to lose like potentially a less valuable fish right away. And damsels are popular for early cycling of tanks because they're very hardy and they do have exciting personalities and many of them are very pretty. But it's not uncommon that people now the damselfish are used to having that whole tank to themselves, and when people add their sort of display fish, even if it's much larger, the damselfish will just mercilessly bully it.
This is a mean fish.
Yeah, it's tiny.
There's one called the blue devil, incredibly aptly named. It is both very blue and evil.
I've often found the trigger fish to also be evil as well.
Triggers and puffers are also full of hate, but they just have hate in their hearts. The damselfish is just defending his lawn.
Yeah, the fact that it just shoots out and explodes is pretty funny. But like, it's not too far out of the ordinary to think evolution could make you a step in the right direction, wrong direction, whatever you want to call self-immolation.
Yeah, the one thing with them that's interesting is I feel like they would be They should be a hive-based fish, in my opinion. I feel like the only like suicidal levels of self-defense only really works in like a hive scenario.
Unless it's like an octopus. It's like an octopus. Think about it. Octopuses have to, once they spawn and leave their eggs somewhere, then they basically go through senescence. And I think I see this as another form of senescence where
You think
instead
they
of
spawn
spending
in the
every
plant and then they're just ready to explode?
yeah, then they're all set to die because the plant will take care of the eggs. So what we're seeing is the fully matured ones that are going into the plants to lay their eggs, and then they can just kill off whatever trying to attack it as a last line of defense.
That's actually I like that a lot.
Stay away from my kids.
Finding Nemo would have been a lot shorter with the crash fish.
That barracuda would have been shook.
So still, how does a barracuda eat clownfish eggs out of a hole? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, it's an ambush predator. Why would it go after the eggs?
Because it has hate in its heart.
I don't know. People are still scared of those fish thanks to that movie. Like people look at the barracuda and go like, "Is this like Finding Nemo?" And it's like, "No."
Or if you want them to go away, yes, it is.
Curse and or bless that movie. Curse and or bless that movie. What other horrifying monstrosities do you got?
This one's actually not horrifying. We're gonna end on a happy note. So the last one we've got is the reefback leviathan.
I like this guy.
So the leviathan class, I think there's 3 leviathan types throughout the game. The reefbacks I think are the most pleasant. You can look at a sea dragon later, but the reefbacks are basically just like a giant floating ecosystem unto themselves. It kind of reminded me of like what happens with a whale fall, except this creature is not dead. Lucas, you said something about it. It was just kind of like a moving coral reef.
Yeah. So, how a coral reef functions at its most basic level is it's a symbiotic relationship. The organisms get a place that allows them safety, like the algae that lives on the coral that gives it its color gets a place of safety. And in return, the coral is then going to get both um, a source of coloration, which could be useful for a number of different reasons, but also they get to eat their waste. So this thing is eating their poop of whatever's living on this thing. Just so you know, that's how it's feeding itself. And the amount of energy and the amount of nutrients that a reef could produce, if you were a singular organism that could collect all of that into your body, like we see barnacles and everything from boats to sea turtles, and it's almost a symbiotic relationship too. If it was using it not only as a source of nutrients but also as camouflage. So imagine if you could like land down onto like a sandy area and hold still enough so that way the big creature doesn't notice that you're in the smoke pile you just produced of dust.
Yeah, I think these things are giant though, right?
So this thing is 70 meters long. So about the size of a cargo plane.
I'm just thinking as well, along the lines that I'm seeing this thing, the amount of time it would take to get this size reef on a normal coral reef system, like this would take over 100 years to produce, like on our planet. A reef system takes time. Coral reefs do not grow quickly. There's entire organizations dedicated to forcing corals to grow quickly in order to save coral reefs because they grow so slow.
All right, so I have a slight theory. I'm trying to find like looking at different pictures from different angles. Maybe the back of the reefback leviathan, because like I see a little bit of, I mean, the passive filter feeding is not really in their general thing, but I do get cephalopod vibes a little bit from him. And the big back part like reminds me of like a cuttle bone, or like even like I said, like a nautilus shell, which are like very high in calcium, which I would imagine for a coral being a calcium skeleton based critter. Would probably be like an excellent substrate. So maybe their bodies are also sort of adapted to be the best possible coral substrate.
So and if it's feeding off of the coral waste, it's basically just like making its own food. It's like, come here, feed me.
And it works
While
out.
getting additional armor, we know that some coral stinging cells, we see animals in real life do that. So it could be very like multifaceted.
You talked about, what could be hunting this thing. And we've got the sea dragon leviathan, which if you want some nightmare fuel from this game, that's what this thing is.
It's the hands. I'm sorry, the hands make it goofy.
The Reaper Leviathan is definitely spooky, but like this thing is like I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a squid with a T-Rex stuck on the
If
top of it.
Godzilla and Cthulhu had a baby.
Yeah.
But again, it's the hands. The hands make it look silly. Look at him. Look at his little gribby grabbers. Yeah, he just wants to give you a grab. Just here to grab you.
Now, I think so. The Reaper Dawn is about 55 meters from what I saw. So that one's smaller.
So it's not as
than
big. He's not that big.
This thing, 112 meters.
367 feet.
It is bigger than a football field. These things are massive, and we talked about it grabbing things as a joke, Lucas. It says it says that they will grab. The only thing it'll eat is other leviathans because it's so big, and it eats them by finding smaller ones and dragging them to like the lava areas that they like to live in and boiling them alive.
That is not great.
That does
be
indicate a
honest
level of
with
intelligence too, though. I mean, it's got hands and it's cooking. So, like,
Hmm.
how smart is it really?
Too smart for that, for what it looks like. Too smart.
Well, thank you guys so much for listening to this. Again, we really appreciate y'all coming in and tuning in. We love doing this. Hopefully next episode we'll have some Pokemon stuff because the announcement is coming up in like less than a week from recording this. So until then, have a wonderful rest of your day or night. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye, everybody.